Two quick questions. Did you have a name for the novel back when you had originally thought of publishing it as a novel before it became three smaller novels?
Well, yeah, there were three, and they were actually published
Yeah.
during the 1990s.
Those are the ones I read.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I hate to say this, because normally I would say, hey, book 3 here is pretty close to book 2, Bone by Bone, and Killing Mr. Watson has certainly got a lot of the original. I mean, book 1 and Mr. Watson are somewhat similar. I was very pleased by a wonderful review this book got in the New York Review of Books, in which a critic named Michael Durden said he actually took the trouble to read both versions, and he understood completely why I felt I had to redo it and distill it, because I really think so. I think it's a much better book. I hate to say it because they are similar, but normally I would say, oh, don't bother. If you read those, you got all you need. But
Hadn't you originally wanted to publish it as a single novel?
I did. I originally brought it in with the whole buff pages and everything to Jason, I guess it was, Jason Epstein. And it stood about this high off the floor. Random House realized what I was presenting, they fainted. You can't do that. So we decided to break it up into 3 books. I mean, break it up into 3 books. And the original was, the whole thing would have been called Killing Mr. Watson. That was the original title for all of it. And then I rewrote it and everything changed.
And my second question is, have you built any boats recently?
Have I built boats?
Yeah,
No.
recently.
No,
No.
I haven't.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to know, are your preoccupations with the environment complementary with fiction? Are they inspiring mutually, or are they antagonistic? Because your fight is such an uphill battle for environment that it can be frustrating and take away this meaning of everything else. Now, if you
Right.
can...
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I've gotten quite deaf, and your mouth is too close to the microphone. So,
I'm sorry.
so let's try
Is it
again.
better now?
Yeah.
It's better. Well, I wanted to know how the relationship between your preoccupations with environment and with your the art of fiction, are they complementary, are they inspiring each other somehow, or are they antagonistic because the fight for environment is such an uphill battle? Did you?
Well, I don't find them antagonistic at all, because, Noreen used the word elegiac in both of them. Nature plays, generally speaking, a pretty large role in my fiction, too. It's always there as a victim. And I'm fascinated by landscape, and my characters generally begin coming up out of a landscape. You know where you are. So I don't find them at all. I mean, I hope they complement each other in that way. Because that has been, I've been an environmentalist forever, since I was a little boy, really. So.
It's so frustrating.
Hmm?
It's so frustrating.
Is it frustrating for?
No, the fight for environment is so frustrating. Every day in the news is something else, another oil spill or something.
Every day, exactly right. Something terrible is being perpetrated. But we're still working on the case. I'm working very hard. I'm still working with Indian people and on the environment. And so you can't give up.
There's a question in the back.
Hi. I was wondering who your favorite novelists are and who, what fiction writers inspire you.
Living or dead?
Either.
Well, I won't get into it because I could make a very long list. We're very lucky we have some terrific writers in this country. My own feeling is that our best writer right now, maybe by some degree, is Don DeLillo. But not everybody would agree with that. think he really is. He's a very, very powerful stylist, very, very original, very funny in a dark way, but absolutely brilliant, brilliant concepts. And but there are many others. I think I won't start that. That's a slippery slope.
Yeah, hi Peter. I spent some time in the Everglades in the late 70s and 80s.
Yeah, close.
I met an old crack writer up here named Touch Brown,
Oh,
and I kind of represented the business interests in Miami at the time.
oh, you did?
And, these, a lot of them were shrimpers and other things before they got into the marijuana trade. And, they blamed a lot of it on the Everglades and what happened to water flow, and they couldn't really shrimp by the mid-70s. But, there was that underlying nature that I pretty much met everybody in town had it. I mean, whether they were a restaurateur or their local sheriff. So by the time we got to the late 70s and 80s, I mean, it was just wide open until they literally sealed off Everglades City and raided, arrested everybody in town.
Yeah, I knew Touch very well. He was one of my pals really down there. Touch did a little time for, actually they got him on taxes. Somebody squealed. He was running a lot of drugs up from Colombia and stuff like that. Plus he was a master gator poacher and a lawbreaker. And he was the greatest egotist I think I've ever come across. He said, I guess I'm just about the best at everything I ever put my hand to. And he would say that absolutely straight. There wasn't any humor about it. I got me, he was something Tosh, but he was a terrific talker. He was incredible. He was so full of life, and he was a tough old goat. I went down into the, actually Chatham Bend with him one time, and also to Gopher Key. And the old guy was scampering around through the thorns. I've never seen anything like it in my life. He had a disgraceful life, but it was very one time when they shot a movie with that singer, Earl Ives, Wind Across the Everglades, and they hired Tosh to play I think he was playing the gator poacher, probably. That's what he was. And he got so in love with the movies, and he thought he was a terrific star. He started writing songs, Tosh Brown, singing, he made records featuring himself, and he was absolutely convinced that he was going to be a star in Hollywood. He never doubted it for a minute. Actually, even though he went to the Slammer for a few years, he still put away a lot of money. He had a whole chain of laundromats.
He also had sun tanning parlors.
He had what?
He had sun tanning parlors actually in Panama.
That's right. He had a string of laundromats.
He couldn't understand why nobody would use the sun tanning parlors.
He was an amazing figure. You wanted to kill him half the time. But he was something. He was also the real thing.
We have time for two more.
This book is set in the past, and you mentioned you did a lot of interviews. I was wondering, when you're setting a story in the past, how much research do you have to do? At what point is it that it just clicks and you can envision that era and that place, even though you never lived there?
You're the only one who can tell that, right? Because you're the only one who knows what you want to do. So some books take a lot of research. Most novelists do a lot of research. They do. They want to get it right. I've had novelists call me up for some little thing that I might know about they didn't know about, and very obscure little things, but I admire the fact they are taking the pains to go get that fact right. I'm always a little dismayed by people who are sloppy that way. And I think it's your job. You are presenting information. I think you should get it right. I don't like fussing around too much with that kind of inaccuracy. But still, there is a point where you're research can become an obsession and it has you by the throat and you can't stop. I may be at that point right now. Look, I'm trying, and maybe one of the reasons I'm having so much trouble. You get trapped by your research and and then there seems to be no bottom to it. I don't know, it's just a tough question. It just has to be your instinct. I couldn't write far too good until I could speak that dialect. I had to be able to speak it because the whole book is speech. And I knew it, so I just had to put in the time. I went on turtle voyages, cut my tape recorder out, and interviewed people, wasted money for the New Yorker, and all kinds of things. But yeah, but I wanted it right.
And one more?
I'm still kind of looking this one up in my head, so forgive me if it's a little vague, but it's a question kind of about the concept of religion as opposed to the concept of divinity. Maybe in your books, and I thought of it originally because we brought up Moon from that playing the Fields of the Lord, and specifically at the end when he kind of casts himself in like a feverish, hallucinogenic haze, I guess, into nature, and that kind of it makes me think I wish I had a more pointed question, but I was just kind of going for what you think about maybe the relationship between religion and divinity as it might be found in nature. Like, for example, Moon kind of throws himself to the fates, essentially, and he comes out in a beautiful scene kind of on the riverbed or on the...
Yeah.
So,
No, but Moon does have a mystical strain, yes. I think religion really, I'm a Zen teacher, I'm not a Christian, and nor have I been for many, many years. And so I'm not much interested in hypothetical divinity. But I am, in Zen we speak of the Lord who is seen within. I feel that we are all manifestations of the Lord, of the Creator, of God, and so on. So there's a lot of religion in my books, and there was a lot of religion in that book, and that was a kind of an epiphany at the very end on his river trip. Remember, it was, yeah. I think it's all in there. I've always been fascinated by it. I've been awed by the amount of love and creativity that went into all of the messianic religions, the Abrahamic religions. Incredible amount of art and music and going to the cathedrals. I've never gone past a cathedral in my life. I always go in there. I'm absolutely just gaga with awe. So I guess I am. I remember when I was in the service, I was in Pearl Harbor, and Honolulu on Liberty Days was a horrible mess. You can't believe it. There were millions of servicemen there, and coming in and coming back from the Pacific. And the only place I could find any peace at all was in the church. I would go to the church because I could sit in there and be quiet, look at the stained glass windows, and then I'd go drinking after that. But, yeah, it's implicit, I think, in this stuff.
Can I just follow that up really quickly, just to take a little note that kind of brings up? Was it explicit then that, that was, it seems kind of inevitable in the character's actions at that point, but was it, you mentioned kind of like the internal divinity, or what have you, but was that a kind of explicit choice by you as like a confidence move on his part, like a trusting in some sort of internal?
Well, where was the choice? Give me a specific example of the text where you were talking about.
I wish I could just...
I don't mean the page number. I mean, what was going down?
How were you kind of, he's essentially outcast. It's right, I think it's maybe the final 5-6 pages of the book, maybe.
Of that play?
What's that?
That play in the Fields of the Lord, yeah.
Lord, sure. And I was wondering about the decision on your part to have his character sort of, I mean, I think he's tripping on ayahuasca, and he's like, he has some kind of fever.
Well, he's not tripping then. He's not on ayahuasca then. He's having a real, I think, despite himself, because he's hostile to the church, because the only church he knew was from the mission stations, and the missionaries were beating it into him. So he had no use for the Christian church at all.
Yeah.
But I think just the hugeness of the universe. From there he is, a man stripped of everything. He has no idea where he's going. He doesn't know what countries he's in. He's just going down that river, and I think he suddenly sees the extraordinary size and power of creation of life without attributing it to Yahweh or a particular person, Christ or Allah, anybody. Just the emptiness, yeah.